the new god of technology, the new gods of technology, the new god of technology, the new goddess of technology, the new goddesses of technology, the new goddess of technology, the old god of technology, the old gods of technology, the old god of technology, the old goddess of technology, the old goddesses of technology, the old goddess of technology, the greater god of technology, the greater gods of technology, the greater god of technology, the greater goddess of technology, the greater goddesses of technology, the greater goddess of technology, the lesser god of technology, the lesser gods of technology, the lesser god of technology, the lesser goddess of technology, the lesser goddesses of technology, the lesser goddess of technology, the higher god of technology, the higher gods of technology, the higher god of technology, the higher goddess of technology, the higher goddesses of technology, the higher goddess of technology, the lower god of technology, the lower gods of technology, the lower god of technology, the lower goddess of technology, the lower goddesses of technology, the lower goddess of technology, the greater spirit of technology, the greater spirits of technology, the greater spirit of technology, the lesser spirit of technology, the lesser spirits of technology, the lesser spirit of technology, the higher spirit of technology, the higher spirits of technology, the higher spirit of technology, the lower spirit of technology, the lower spirits of technology, the lower spirit of technology, the major god of technology, the major gods of technology, the major god of technology, the major goddess of technology, the major goddesses of technology, the major goddess of technology, the minor god of technology, the minor gods of technology, the minor god of technology, the minor goddess of technology, the minor goddesses of technology, the minor goddess of technology, the superior god of technology, the superior gods of technology, the superior god of technology, the superior goddess of technology, the superior goddesses of technology, the superior goddess of technology, the inferior god of technology, the inferior gods of technology, the inferior god of technology, the inferior goddess of technology, the inferior goddesses of technology, the inferior goddess of technology, the ancestor god of technology, the ancestor gods of technology, the ancestor god of technology, the ancestor goddess of technology, the ancestor goddesses of technology, the ancestor goddess of technology, the ascendant god of technology, the ascendant gods of technology, the ascendant god of technology, the ascendant goddess of technology, the ascendant goddesses of technology, the ascendant goddess of technology, the descendant god of technology, the descendant gods of technology, the descendant god of technology, the descendant goddess of technology, the descendant goddesses of technology, the descendant goddess of technology, the transcendent god of technology, the transcendent gods of technology, the transcendent god of technology, the transcendent goddess of technology, the transcendent goddesses of technology, the transcendent goddess of technology, the past god of technology, the past gods of technology, the past god of technology, the past goddess of technology, the past goddesses of technology, the past goddess of technology, the present god of technology, the present gods of technology, the present god of technology, the present goddess of technology, the present goddesses of technology, the present goddess of technology, the future god of technology, the future gods of technology, the future god of technology, the future goddess of technology, the future goddesses of technology, the future goddess of technology, the authentic god of technology, the authentic gods of technology, the authentic god of technology, the authentic goddess of technology, the authentic goddesses of technology, the authentic goddess of technology, the synthetic god of technology, the synthetic gods of technology, the synthetic god of technology, the synthetic goddess of technology, the synthetic goddesses of technology, the synthetic goddess of technology, the progressive god of technology, the progressive gods of technology, the progressive god of technology, the progressive goddess of technology, the progressive goddesses of technology, the progressive goddess of technology, the regressive god of technology, the regressive gods of technology, the regressive god of technology, the regressive goddess of technology, the regressive goddesses of technology, the regressive goddess of technology, the ordinary god of technology, the ordinary gods of technology, the ordinary god of technology, the ordinary goddess of technology, the ordinary goddesses of technology, the ordinary goddess of technology, the extraordinary god of technology, the extraordinary gods of technology, the extraordinary god of technology, the extraordinary goddess of technology, the extraordinary goddesses of technology, the extraordinary goddess of technology, the static god of technology, the static gods of technology, the static god of technology, the static goddess of technology, the static goddesses of technology, the static goddess of technology, the dynamic god of technology, the dynamic gods of technology, the dynamic god of technology, the dynamic goddess of technology, the dynamic goddesses of technology, the dynamic goddess of technology, the land god of technology, the land gods of technology, the land god of technology, the land goddess of technology, the land goddesses of technology, the land goddess of technology, the sea god of technology, the sea gods of technology, the sea god of technology, the sea goddess of technology, the sea goddesses of technology, the sea goddess of technology, the sky god of technology, the sky gods of technology, the sky god of technology, the sky goddess of technology, the sky goddesses of technology, the sky goddess of technology, the god of technology, the gods of technology, the god of technology, the goddess of technology, the goddesses of technology, the goddess of technology, the half god of technology, the half gods of technology, the half god of technology, the half goddess of technology, the half goddesses of technology, the half goddess of technology, the vessel of technology, the vessels of technology, the vessel of technology, the name of technology, the names of technology, the name of technology, the person of technology, the persons of technology, the person of technology, the persona of technology, the personas of technology, the persona of technology, the personage of technology, the personages of technology, the personage of technology, the personality of technology, the personalities of technology, the personality of technology, the personification of technology, the personifications of technology, the personification of technology, the image of technology, the images of technology, the image of technology, the imagination of technology, the imaginations of technology, the imagination of technology, the belief of technology, the beliefs of technology, the belief of technology, the thought of technology, the thoughts of technology, the thought of technology, the word of technology, the words of technology, the word of technology, the action of technology, the actions of technology, the action of technology, the reaction of technology, the reactions of technology, the reaction of technology, the feeling of technology, the feelings of technology, the feeling of technology, the situation of technology, the situations of technology, the situation of technology, the circumstance of technology, the circumstances of technology, the circumstance of technology, the environment of technology, the environments of technology, the environment of technology, the relationship of technology, the relationships of technology, the relationship of technology, the number of technology, the numbers of technology, the number of technology, the formula of technology, the formulas of technology, the formula of technology, the equation of technology, the equations of technology, the equation of technology, the theory of technology, the theories of technology, the theory of technology, the symbol of technology, the symbols of technology, the symbol of technology, the color of technology, the colors of technology, the color of technology, the thing of technology, the things of technology, the thing of technology, the way of technology, the ways of technology, the way of technology, the place of technology, the places of technology, the place of technology, the time of technology, the times of technology, the time of technology, the event of technology, the events of technology, the event of technology, the result of technology, the results of technology, the result of technology, the crown of technology, the crowns of technology, the crown of technology, the throne of technology, the thrones of technology, the throne of technology, the technology king, the technology kings, the technology kingdom, the technology kingdoms, the technology king subject, the technology king subjects, the technology king's dominion, the technology king's dominions, the kingdom of technology, the kingdoms of technology, the kingdom of technology, the technology queen, the technology queens, the technology queendom, the technology queendoms, the technology queen subject, the technology queen subjects, the technology queen's dominion, the technology queen's dominions, the queendom of technology, the queendoms of technology, the queendom of technology, the technology prince, the technology princes, the technology princedom, the technology princedoms, the technology prince's subject, the technology prince's subjects, the technology prince's dominion, the technology prince's dominions, the princedom of technology, the princedoms of technology, the princedom of technology, the technology princess, the technology princesses, the technology princessdom, the technology princessdoms, the technology princess's subject, the technology princess's subjects, the technology princess's dominion, the technology princess's dominions, the princessdom of technology, the princessdoms of technology, the princessdom of technology, the lord of technology, the lords of technology, the lord of technology, the lordess of technology, the lordesses of technology, the lordess of technology, the priest of technology, the priests of technology, the priest of technology, the priestess of technology, the priestesses of technology, the priestess of technology, the ritual of technology, the rituals of technology, the ritual of technology, the shrine of technology, the shrines of technology, the shrine of technology, the temple of technology, the temples of technology, the temple of technology, the leader of technology, the leaders of technology, the leader of technology, the follower of technology, the followers of technology, the follower of technology, the natural substance of technology, the natural substances of technology, the natural substance of technology, the supernatural substance of technology, the supernatural substances of technology, the supernatural substance of technology, the temporal substance of technology, the temporal substances of technology, the temporal substance of technology, the spiritual substance of technology, the spiritual substances of technology, the spiritual substance of technology, the natural form of technology, the natural forms of technology, the natural form of technology, the supernatural form of technology, the supernatural forms of technology, the supernatural form of technology, the temporal form of technology, the temporal forms of technology, the temporal form of technology, the spiritual form of technology, the spiritual forms of technology, the spiritual form of technology, the age of technology, the ages of technology, the age of technology, the era of technology, the eras of technology, the era of technology, the awakener of technology, the awakeners of technology, the awakener of technology, the awakening of technology, the awakenings of technology, the awakening of technology, the realm of technology, the realms of technology, the realm of technology, the dimension of technology, the dimensions of technology, the dimension of technology, the zone of technology, the zones of technology, the zone of technology, the frequency of technology, the frequencies of technology, the frequency of technology, the century of technology, the centuries of technology, the century of technology, the millennium of technology, the millenniums of technology, the millennium of technology, the purpose of technology, the purposes of technology, the purpose of technology, the meaning of technology, the meanings of technology, the meaning of technology, the culture of technology, the cultures of technology, the culture of technology, the demonstrator of technology, the demonstrators of technology, the demonstrator of technology, the demonstration of technology, the demonstrations of technology, the demonstration of technology, the manifester of technology, the manifestors of technology, the manifester of technology, the manifestation of technology, the manifestations of technology, the manifestation of technology, the presence of technology, the presences of technology, the presence of technology, the glow of technology, the glows of technology, the glow of technology, the goal of technology, the goals of technology, the goal of technology, the plan of technology, the plans of technology, the plan of technology, the book of technology, the books of technology, the book of technology, the philosopher of technology, the philosophers of technology, the philosopher of technology, the philosophy of technology, the philosophies of technology, the philosophy of technology, the releaser of technology, the releasers of technology, the releaser of technology, the release of technology, the releases of technology, the release of technology, the variable of technology, the variables of technology, the variable of technology, the cause of technology, the causes of technology, the cause of technology, the effect of technology, the effects of technology, the effect of technology, the journey of technology, the journeys of technology, the journey of technology, the emergence of technology, the emergences of technology, the emergence of technology, the source of technology, the sources of technology, the source of technology, the originator of technology, the originators of technology, the originator of technology, the origin of technology, the origins of technology, the origin of technology, the forefather of technology, the forefathers of technology, the forefather of technology, the foremother of technology, the foremothers of technology, the foremother of technology, the ancestor of technology, the ancestors of technology, the ancestor of technology, the descendant of technology, the descendants of technology, the descendant of technology, the lineage of technology, the lineages of technology, the lineage of technology, the heritage of technology, the heritages of technology, the heritage of technology, the heir of technology, the heirs of technology, the heir of technology, the co-heir of technology, the co-heirs of technology, the co-heir of technology, the joint heir of technology, the joint heirs of technology, the joint heir of technology, the dynasty of technology, the dynasties of technology, the dynasty of technology, the force of technology, the forces of technology, the force of technology, the law of technology, the laws of technology, the law of technology, the pact of technology, the pacts of technology, the pact of technology, the game of technology, the games of technology, the game of technology, the mask of technology, the masks of technology, the mask of technology, the armor of technology, the armors of technology, the armor of technology, the sword of technology, the swords of technology, the sword of technology, the shield of technology, the shields of technology, the shield of technology, the force shield of technology, the force shields of technology, the force shield of technology, the armored force shield of technology, the armored force shields of technology, the armored force shield of technology, the champion of technology, the champions of technology, the champion of technology, the guardian of technology, the guardians of technology, the guardian of technology, the defender of technology, the defenders of technology, the defender of technology, the protector of technology, the protectors of technology, the protector of technology, the chant of technology, the chants of technology, the chant of technology, the shape of technology, the shapes of technology, the shape of technology, the cube of technology, the cubes of technology, the cube of technology, the cuboid of technology, the cuboids of technology, the cuboid of technology, the sphere of technology, the spheres of technology, the sphere of technology, the spheroid of technology, the spheroids of technology, the spheroid of technology, the prism of technology, the prisms of technology, the prism of technology, the pyramid of technology, the pyramids of technology, the pyramid of technology, the cylinder of technology, the cylinders of technology, the cylinder of technology, the cone of technology, the cones of technology, the cone of technology, the triangle of technology, the triangles of technology, the triangle of technology, the circle of technology, the circles of technology, the circle of technology, the semicircle of technology, the semicircles of technology, the semicircle of technology, the square of technology, the squares of technology, the square of technology, the rectangle of technology, the rectangles of technology, the rectangle of technology, the parallelogram of technology, the parallelograms of technology, the parallelogram of technology, the rhombus of technology, the rhombuses of technology, the rhombus of technology, the trapezoid of technology, the trapezoids of technology, the trapezoid of technology, the polygon of technology, the polygons of technology, the polygon of technology, the pentagon of technology, the pentagons of technology, the pentagon of technology, the hexagon of technology, the hexagons of technology, the hexagon of technology, the septagon of technology, the septagons of technology, the septagon of technology, the octagon of technology, the octagons of technology, the octagon of technology, the nonagon of technology, the nonagons of technology, the nonagon of technology, the decagon of technology, the decagons of technology, the decagon of technology, the evolution of technology, the evolutions of technology, the evolution of technology, the revolution of technology, the revolutions of technology, the revolution of technology, the elemental art of technology, the elemental arts of technology, the elemental art of technology, the elemental science of technology, the elemental sciences of technology, the elemental science of technology, the elemental principle of technology, the elemental principles of technology, the elemental principle of technology, the elemental technology of technology, the elemental technologies of technology, the elemental technology of technology, the low elemental art of technology, the low elemental arts of technology, the low elemental art of technology, the low elemental science of technology, the low elemental sciences of technology, the low elemental science of technology, the low elemental principle of technology, the low elemental principles of technology, the low elemental principle of technology, the low elemental technology of technology, the low elemental technologies of technology, the low elemental technology of technology, the high elemental art of technology, the high elemental arts of technology, the high elemental art of technology, the high elemental science of technology, the high elemental sciences of technology, the high elemental science of technology, the high elemental principle of technology, the high elemental principles of technology, the high elemental principle of technology, the high elemental technology of technology, the high elemental technologies of technology, the high elemental technology of technology, the agent of technology, the agents of technology, the agent of technology, the agency of technology, the agencies of technology, the agency of technology, the amplifier of technology, the amplifiers of technology, the amplifier of technology, the amplification of technology, the amplifications of technology, the amplification of technology, the enhancer of technology, the enhancers of technology, the enhancer of technology, the enhancement of technology, the enhancements of technology, the enhancement of technology, the magnifier of technology, the magnifiers of technology, the magnifier of technology, the magnification of technology, the magnifications of technology, the magnification of technology, the influencer of technology, the influencers of technology, the influencer of technology, the influence of technology, the influences of technology, the influence of technology, the emanator of technology, the emanators of technology, the emanator of technology, the emanation of technology, the emanations of technology, the emanation of technology, the converger of technology, the convergers of technology, the converger of technology, the convergence of technology, the convergences of technology, the convergence of technology, the aura of technology, the auras of technology, the aura of technology, the impression of technology, the impressions of technology, the impression of technology, the intelligence of technology, the intelligences of technology, the intelligence of technology, the sophistication of technology, the sophistications of technology, the sophistication of technology, the genius of technology, the geniuses of technology, the genius of technology, the polymath of technology, the polymaths of technology, the polymath of technology, the psychic of technology, the psychics of technology, the psychic of technology, the knowledge of technology, the knowledges of technology, the knowledge of technology, the understanding of technology, the understandings of technology, the understanding of technology, the wisdom of technology, the wisdoms of technology, the wisdom of technology, the secret of technology, the secrets of technology, the secret of technology, the mystery of technology, the mysteries of technology, the mystery of technology, the revelation of technology, the revelations of technology, the revelation of technology, the tactic of technology, the tactics of technology, the tactic of technology, the strategy of technology, the strategies of technology, the strategy of technology, the strength of technology, the strengths of technology, the strength of technology, the might of technology, the might of technology, the might of technology, the power of technology, the powers of technology, the power of technology, the authority of technology, the authorities of technology, the authority of technology, the dominion of technology, the dominions of technology, the dominion of technology, the rhythm of technology, the rhythms of technology, the rhythm of technology, the melody of technology, the melodies of technology, the melody of technology, the music of technology, the musics of technology, the music of technology, the lyric of technology, the lyrics of technology, the lyric of technology, the song of technology, the songs of technology, the song of technology, the dance of technology, the dances of technology, the dance of technology, the spirit of technology, the spirits of technology, the spirit of technology, the soul of technology, the souls of technology, the soul of technology, the body of technology, the bodies of technology, the body of technology, the mark of technology, the marks of technology, the mark of technology, the promise of technology, the promises of technology, the promise of technology, the visionary of technology, the visionaries of technology, the visionary of technology, the vision of technology, the visions of technology, the vision of technology, the picture of technology, the pictures of technology, the picture of technology, the sound of technology, the sounds of technology, the sound of technology, the tongue of technology, the tongues of technology, the tongue of technology, the language of technology, the languages of technology, the language of technology, the communication of technology, the communications of technology, the communication of technology, the people of technology, the peoples of technology, the people of technology, the society of technology, the societies of technology, the society of technology, the fortress of technology, the fortresses of technology, the fortress of technology, the government of technology, the governments of technology, the government of technology, the city of technology, the cities of technology, the city of technology, the nation of technology, the nations of technology, the nation of technology, the civilization of technology, the civilizations of technology, the civilization of technology, the world of technology, the worlds of technology, the world of technology,